The fall of the Roman Empire. The sun had set on Rome many times before its final agonizing twilight. For centuries, the empire had been a colossus, its legions marching across continents, its laws shaping civilizations, its culture echoing through the ages. But even the mightiest structures eventually crumble, and Rome was no exception. The seeds of its destruction were sown long before the final barbarian hordes breached its walls. Internal rot had set in, a creeping decay that weakened the empire from within. The vastness of its territory had become a burden, too unwieldy to govern effectively. Emperors rose and fell with alarming frequency, often through assassination or civil war, leaving the reins of power in the hands of the unstable or the corrupt. The constant struggle for succession drained resources and attention from the real threats lurking at the borders. Economically, Rome was faltering. The reliance on slave labor had stifled innovation, and the endless wars, while initially bringing in plunder, eventually became a drain on the treasury. Inflation ran rampant, devaluing the currency and making life harder for ordinary citizens. The rich grew richer, their vast estates worked by impoverished peasants, while the middle class, the backbone of Roman society, slowly disappeared. Taxes became a crushing weight, particularly on the provinces, breeding resentment and a desire for independence. The military, once the invincible arm of Rome, had also seen better days. While still formidable, it was increasingly composed of mercenaries and soldiers recruited from the very barbarian tribes they were supposed to fight. Loyalty was often bought, not earned, and these soldiers had little vested interest in the preservation of Rome itself. Their allegiance was to their commanders, who could promise them greater rewards, or to their own tribal leaders. And then there were the barbarians. For centuries, Rome had held them at bay, a seemingly impenetrable shield. But the pressure on the frontiers never truly relented. Tribes like the Goths, Vandals, Franks, and Lombards, pushed by movements of peoples further east, began to probe and then to breach the Roman defenses. Initially, these were raids, easily repelled. But over time, the incursions became more organized, more persistent. A pivotal moment came in the late 4th century. The Huns, a fearsome nomadic people from the east, swept across Eastern Europe, driving many Germanic tribes before them. The Visigoths, seeking refuge from the Huns, petitioned Emperor Valens for permission to cross the Danube and settle within Roman territory. Valens, perhaps seeing an opportunity to bolster his depleted legions, agreed. But the Roman officials tasked with managing the refugees proved cruel and corrupt, extorting and mistreating them. Driven to desperation, the Visigoths revolted. The ensuing Battle of Adrianople in 378 AD was a catastrophic defeat for Rome. Emperor Valens himself was killed, and a large portion of the Roman army was annihilated. It was a shock that reverberated through the empire, a clear signal that the barbarians were no longer just a fringe threat, but a force capable of overwhelming Roman might. In the following decades, the pressure intensified. Alaric, a charismatic Gothic leader, repeatedly attacked Roman territory, seeking land and tribute. In 410 AD, he achieved what had been unthinkable for centuries. He sacked the city of Rome itself. While the physical damage was not as extensive as later invasions, the psychological impact was devastating. The Eternal City, the heart of the empire, had been violated. The Western Roman Empire, now a shadow of its former glory, continued to fragment. The Vandals, after crossing into North Africa, established their own kingdom, cutting off Rome's vital grain supply and even sacking the city in 455 AD. The Franks consolidated their power in Gaul, the Angles and Saxons began their settlement of Britain, and the Visigoths carved out a kingdom in Hispania. The Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople, managed to survive, evolving into the Byzantine Empire, a distinct entity that would endure for another 1,000 years. But in the West, the imperial authority had all but vanished. Provinces were ruled by barbarian kings, who often paid lip service to the Roman emperor but wielded true power. The final act was almost anticlimactic. In 476 AD, Odoacer, a Germanic chieftain serving in the Roman army, deposed the last Roman emperor in the West, a young boy named Romulus Augustulus. Odoacer did not bother to claim the imperial title for himself. Instead, he sent the imperial regalia to the Eastern Emperor in Constantinople, effectively acknowledging that the Western Roman Empire no longer existed as a distinct political entity. The fall of Rome was not a single, sudden event, but a long, drawn-out process. It was a confluence of economic instability, political corruption, military weakness, and relentless external pressure. The empire, once a beacon of order and civilization, had succumbed to the very forces it had spent centuries trying to contain. Its legacy, however, would not die. Roman law, language, architecture, and ideas would continue to shape the future of Europe and the world, a testament to the enduring power of what had once been the greatest empire the world had ever known. The light of Rome had flickered and died in the West, but its embers would continue to glow, igniting new fires in the centuries to come.